Have you ever read a passage in a book or heard a quote in a movie or listened to something on either a podcast or a video and it kind of stuck with you, whether it's a line, a passage, or just a long quote? For whatever reason, it kind of resonated with you. It stuck with you and you don't quite know why, but you know it meant something. That happened to me recently. I was reading toward the end of David Goggins' last book, Never Finished, and there was a part in it that kept replaying over in my head over the past weekend and the last few days. Part is where he talks about when he was going to, I believe it was the Air Force's para rescue school. And as he was getting there, everybody kind of had their expectations, and there was a certain standard that everybody had to reach. The standard was when you went under a threshold, you had to do 5 pull-ups and 10 push-ups. So he, like everyone else, had gotten to that threshold. There's a man next to him, and he did his 5 pull-ups and his 10 push-ups as is required. The important part of the story is the guy he was next to, for whatever reason, did way more than 5 pull-ups, and he did way more than 10 push-ups. And he seemed to continue to do that throughout all the training, as if he was setting an example, that his standard was just so much higher than whatever was just required of him. And it got me thinking about myself, my own life, and just as humans in general. And then I heard it again in the workout class I was taking. The coach had talked about it in terms of making the standard, trying to get your chest to the bar when it comes to pull-ups instead of just getting your chin there. Obviously making it more difficult, but as he pointed out, whenever something difficult comes up or that movement is there, you're ready and you already know you can do it. And it got me thinking about how this is not just in either a workout context or a military context, but in every context. How often do we use the standard or what's required of us to be the top, when in reality maybe we should make it the floor? I know for myself, I've cut corners more times in my life just doing the bare minimum, just making sure that I did what was required of me, but not necessarily going above and beyond, not necessarily setting a standard that I myself was saying, this is what I should be striving for, this is what is good enough for me, even if what is required is much less. You see it a lot today also in terms of these arguments. Oh, they're quiet quitting. Oh, they're only doing what's required of them. Oh, this generation versus that generation versus whatever. To me, that's a lot of noise. I think what's more important is realizing, what are you doing it for? What is your standard? What is the standard that you require for yourself in whatever task you're doing? Is it higher? Is it the bare minimum? Is it even lower? That is up to you. That's something you're going to have to determine for yourself. But as soon as I really started to put this into play, I started to say, you know what, I'm not just going to do the bare minimum. I'm going to do as much as I can with what I have in front of me. Now, this can go for emails, for example. The reason I'm using emails, everybody gets too many emails. But one thing that you can do is, even if you're responding and sometimes you use slang, sometimes you just give a quick word response, perhaps instead take a second and make sure that the response actually not only answers the question, but has proper grammar, doesn't have any spelling mistakes, and actually makes sense. Something we probably don't do enough of. We're always rushing. We're always kind of doing another thing. We got another task on mind, something else we need to do. But if your standard is to do the best job possible for whatever reason, even if maybe the job isn't what you love, you should do it for yourself. You're the person who has to live with yourself at the end of the day. You're the person who's responsible for your work. And while it might not go appreciated, you yourself will know that you're doing the best job possible. So what I would say is, think about it. I'm not talking about in every situation to raise your standard beyond belief, but things that are important in you, things that will help you grow, whether it's as a writer, a reader, a teacher, or even working out. Find what the standard that you deem to be necessary, and then try to meet it. And then as you grow, try to exceed it. See what happens. I guarantee you do that for a year, your life will look very different. Give it a try and find out what your standard is.